Okay. All right, Derek. So here we go. We got the recording going, and we were just chatting before we started this. And we talked about maybe a couple of topics that we could touch on. One is technology and AI and how that is, fascinating both of us. And it's also bringing up some questions about what we do when something like this happens. And, it has the potential to change everything in our work and in our lives. And yeah, so the AI and technology. And then the other one was the unknown and how we deal with or play with or manage the unknown.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so we were thinking of talking about that, but then we don't actually know where we're going to start. So let's I'll hand it to you.
This is us leading with examples. It's almost a year after our first introduction. And in the first introduction as well, it was a very natural flow, us unpacking what it means to bring love and business together. And in the second interaction, we evolved. And of course, we have many other things to discuss, but both of us are really experimenting with technology. And during our initial catch up, we were articulating how it's really impacting our lives and what potential
Mm,
it might have and what it actually means for humanity in general. Like, how can we as human beings integrate technology in a more humane way, in an ethical manner, while still keeping our human dignity and human
mm,
soul, but also we can stay open to the opportunities, to the improvements that it can bring into our lives. So definitely we will dig into that topic more. But of
yeah.
course, the world is going through quite a lot of unknowns. Personally, I am going through quite a lot of unknowns in my personal life too. So this also triggered another conversation between us about uncertainty, how to deal with uncertainty, and how we can actually lead with our hearts in these uncertain times and use the power of heart's naivete, like not knowing and being naive from the hurdles of the mind when we are tackling a new journey. Because sometimes all we need is really not being too much worried about our mind's concerns and all the troubles that might appear on the path. So that's,
Mm,
I think, the two topics that we will focus. And my personal suggestion is maybe starting with the AI in general and articulating a little bit
yeah,
more about where we see it is today,
yeah,
maybe what our personal experiences are, where we see some of the potential use cases, although it's limitless and no one really knows. And given that both of us are really interested in integrating this into human development, human healing, our
hmm,
coaching, maybe we can
yeah.
also discuss what might be some of the potential challenges that we might have to pay attention to if you're not really careful about mindless use of technology and
Yeah.
being in the lost, being in the never-ending vicious cycle of AI. Would you like to start first, or do you want me to take the first round?
Um, well, I'm happy to say something about that. Yeah, Duruk. The yeah, with AI, it's like it's like a Pandora's box almost. Like we or maybe it's like a new set of Legos, like completely new shapes and and capabilities that we've never seen before. And I don't know about you, but when I started playing with it, my mind just went crazy, like went all over the place. Because, it started saying, oh my goodness, if you could do that, then you could do that, and you could do that. And um, it was so fascinating because initially, it's just like trying out the capabilities and seeing what it can
Yep.
do and so forth, and asking it to do stuff, um, trying out interactions. And I think a lot of people might have just stopped there, just checking what it can do and what it can't do. And then it's like, oh, it gets these math questions wrong,
Yep.
or, oh, it's hallucinating these answers. Um, and it's like, oh, okay, it's not that good, but it's good for this kind of stuff. And I think that's like just the initial impression. But I think probably if you look deeper, you can see that there's a ton of secondary capabilities that come up, in that you can use it, like one of the ways I'm using it is like a reflective partner.
True.
And right, and it can give your mind like a something to bounce off of, right, which is quite amazing. It's
Yes.
you can sit down with a journal, of course. You can just look through questions, that meaningful questions, and reflect. But to have something that's dynamic and alive is something new, like in terms of technology, at least.
It is.
So that's what I found really fascinating, like the a whole set of possibilities there. And then it can be an endless rabbit hole as well.
Yeah.
Right. So at some point, natural curiosity for me is like became probably unhealthy at a certain point, when I was trying to look up all this new stuff and stay on top of stuff.
Yep.
And back to the mind and heart thing, my mind was having lots of fun with that, and my heart was saying, well, this, I think, that there's something there that's unhealthy. And I think that's what you're talking about when you said, like, not losing our humanity or
Yes.
something along those lines. We got to be careful about, just living in there in the mind and in the fascination of the technology, and then
Yes.
kind of outsourcing everything to the technology. There's a
True.
temptation there.
True. Thank
Yeah.
you. I think my observations are, sorry, do you have
Yeah,
something
go
more
on.
to it? Please.
No. Yeah, I'll pause there. Yeah.
My observations are pretty much well aligned with yours too. So I think I still remember the first day I started interacting with ChatGPT. Like it was like me sitting in front of a computer nonstop, like searching, playing, and going crazy almost like 4 or 5 hours. Like I skipped meals because it
Yeah.
was so entertaining. I was feeling like I am such a smart person with the world's knowledge in front of me. I'm asking questions, and the answers are really quite interesting, intriguing, and mature enough. So it was
Hmm.
really an amazing, unexpected conversation. And I literally started digging deeper into some of my role models, their previous work, and stuff like that. So it was really a conversation with your favorite poet, like favorite writer. So it was really
Yeah.
like mind blowing in its capacity if you are especially into research, which is usually my playground. I really like researching things, synthesizing information. So I was really like a kid in the kindergarten, just being fascinated by its power. Um, and I think over the last few months, I've also done quite a lot of experimentation on the creative process for generating ideas, experimenting with different styles, and sometimes like learning something new in terms of kickstarting something. So it's definitely a very capable assistant. And I can clearly see with the ever-emerging plugins and so many applications coming in, it's only going to be increasing its execution capacity more and more. And it really makes our lives easier in terms of executing an idea too. So I think
Yeah.
it's really nice to have a partner available all the time to brainstorm ideas. That's the creative side. But it's also nice to have someone who can help you to learn how to actualize a project and work with you on the actualization of that project. And especially, like I
Yes.
said, with the plugins and everything. So personally, I'm leaning towards more in terms of partnerships on the execution.
Yeah.
Maybe it's my creative style. So this technology also enabled me to question many things about humanity and what it means to
Mm.
be a human, and which tasks should belong to a human. Like, where are we differentiated today, and where can we differentiate in the future too? And what does this mean personally for me? As my personal style, I'm a creative personality, and I truly always enjoy the earlier stages of the creation where I really come up with the idea, with the concept, synthesize different things
Mm.
together, because that is the magical part of creation personally for me, which is most of the discovery phase. I would like to still own that phase more, like bring my ideas through some intuitive guidance that I receive with my humanity, and then partner with AI so far in terms of the execution of that.
Yes.
But it's a personal exploration too, and I know there are so many different use cases. When I did a little bit more research and started exploring how other people are using this tool, I've also seen quite a lot of examples from other creators who are also using it in the earlier exploration stage for idea generation too. So I think that if we really segment jobs to be done into two, like exploration, the first earlier parts of creativity, there are some people who are using it as a tool to support that. And there are also others like myself who are bringing some ideas to the execution phase and using AI to make things faster. So I think I see quite a lot of effectiveness and efficiency in the execution phase. And there's going to be tremendous opportunities of this integration in the business world too, which is just another general concern about what this means for job security and so many other things. And I don't know whether there is any job in the world that is really secure enough, given the ever-increasing capabilities of this tool. I think we will all be living in this together. And there are so many conversations, I think, around the risks, which is actually a good thing. So another important thing to highlight is really, I'm also observing the technology and the regulation space around AI, which is also ever changing every other day, and no one really knows. But there is actually one thing that's very loud and clear. We might not know all the answers, and this technology might be changing so fast that it might not be easy to know all the answers. But at least I think people are learning from some of the mistakes that we've done in the social media world, because no one really knew anything about the power of social media. And these kind of multifaceted conversations with different regulatory parties, public, private sector, government sector coming together and thinking about this potential holistically, what it means for humanity, what it means for people. It was just a retrospective analysis. Like, we've done so many wrong things, and here are the societal impact. And here are the only powerful institutions that emerge from this thing. What is happening right now in the second wave, which is, I think, bigger and bolder, is really at least people are aware of potential implications sooner. And these conversations are happening while we are building the technology. You might know that there are really day by day emerging conversations happening, especially in North America. But I've seen similar kind of conversations in Europe too. Regulatory parties coming together with the CEOs of the leaders, like the leaders who are building this technology, is discussing this earlier in the process with regulatory parties, with the people who might be impacted from this. Having said that, does this really mean that we should be safe? And are those conversations giving me enough confidence and comfort to know that we have enough control and power in the evolution of this technology? There are so many question marks, and on my personal side, question marks and concerns, but at least having these conversations early enough is really still making me feel a little bit better in terms of assessing the impact and using this technology in a more, hopefully, ethical manner. So there are so many, I think, good things. I try to highlight a couple in terms of using it as a creativity partner or using it as an efficiency partner if you have a creative idea to execute it in life. I'm leaning towards more the second one, but I've also experienced similar kind of issues when you are into this. It's like a video game, like you can just be lost in it. And personally, for me, the challenge is really how to know the boundaries. It always comes back to this humanity question, like what does it mean to be a human? What does it mean to create something? And how much of that creativity do I want it to be emerging from me as a human? So I still would like to really make sure that I have that grounded presence in me, that intuitive guidance in me, helping me guide my path in terms of my own creation. So just to make sure that I have that connection, I am still consciously paying so much attention to my daily grounding practices, spending time in nature, spending time with my yoga and meditation practices. So at least I have that ultimate connection to the universal wisdom in whatever shape or form it might happen, which is different for each individuals. But to me, I think what I have been practicing quite recently is really finding the balance between those two worlds. One world is really slow world where I just happen to be and just exist without really carrying any of the to-dos and burdens of the world, just being in nature, grounding myself, which is a total different pace of life compared
Yeah.
to this ever-changing fast pace of AI, which is like the ultimate kindergarten for my mind. But I'm really having a hard time to really ground myself so I can still lead with my heart, have the connection with my heart that can hand things over to mind for a faster and more effective execution. But definitely
Mm.
throughout my life, I've never been so challenged with my divided interests in both of the worlds. Like I'm really so much curious in terms of explorations of the world with my mind, but I am also very much in need of grounding myself. I'm bringing myself to present moment to ensure that I'm still connected to my body, connected to my breath, and I'm not really lost in the world of my mind. It's definitely, I think, a evolving practice where I'm really shifting between two worlds, day and
Mm.
night.
Yes.
How are you dealing with
Yeah.
this tension, or are you feeling the same tension too?
Yeah. I think there's you know, there's a lot in what you said there, Dirk. Like when you were talking, I was seeing it. There's a couple of tensions, right? One is like you talked about looking for the answers and nobody has the answers here. And it's sort of like the tension between wanting answers versus like living in questions,
Yes.
if that makes sense. Because it's like uh, technology like this, makes it seem like we can get loads of answers.
Hmm.
But as fast as we get answers, like the questions increase uh, much faster than the answers. So it's like it's so that's touching on what we were talking about living in the unknown, because as we see something increase our mental capabilities, it, it actually means more unknowns,
So true.
because we can, the possibility space is just much bigger than we can ever explore. So then there's that tension between trying to go fast because we can go fast,
Yes.
and then if we just keep going down that path, we'll just end up moving faster and faster, and we're using like just a limit, a part of our intelligence when we're doing that, right? Because we're cut off, like you said, from our bodies. We're
Yep.
cut off from the present moment. So it's yeah, we kind of lose ourselves that way. So it's like we're being confronted with, out of all these possibilities, how do we choose in each moment? What's guiding us?
Yes.
Like the book Essentialism, right?
Yes.
It's Yeah, so we've got the paradox of choice, so even more choice. And that actually means we want to be even more present, even more grounded,
So true.
so that we can feel like, oh, okay, I could generate an AI image of Winston Churchill riding on a horse and reading my book. Like, oh, that would be fun. Or I could write a poem about, like, there's a huge possibility space. So it really requires slowing down to be like, what is the thing now? And it might be as simple as go sit with my son, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. So those are a few of the tensions I think that came up when you were talking.
beautiful explorations. And of course, they triggered quite a few reflections on my side as well. I think question and answer dilemma is really an important one. It's a big segmentation in terms of the operating modality of the mind and the heart. To me, heart is always open. And it's always like a kid. Curiosity is always there. It looks into everything as a play, as if it knows nothing, which is the heart's naivete, which is the beauty about the unknown. And there's no concern there. It's so naive, so open. And because of that openness, it really brings quite a lot of opportunities that we might not even think with our minds, because mind has limited thinking capacity. I think the good thing that mind does is really narrowing things down. The heart opens, brings the expansion, brings opportunities, makes sure that everything is somehow integrated into the universal wisdom that we all share as humanity. But then mind takes that into a more specific focus that can bring some of the ideas, hopefully emerging from that heart's wisdom, into life, into the material world, through dedication, through goals, projects, and planning. So to me, those are the two different things. The question world is really more of the wisdom of the heart, plays like a child, and then the answers comes with the mind that brings whatever is emerging from those exploration phase and brings that into life. So if we see it this way, I still feel like AI has so much power in terms of the execution. But I am also quite concerned about losing that heart wisdom and creating things mindlessly with the wisdom in the AI today too. And this is a big question, like, where is AI coming from? Artificial intelligence is currently being fed with all the content that we shared as humanity, currently written. Now it's evolving into videos as well. But how conscious is that content as well in general? Yes, of course, there are so much saints and so much wise people with their shared wisdom. But there are also so much biases in that content or whatever we fed into artificial intelligence too. So I'm also quite concerned, given the state of humanity and what we did with that consciousness in our world, if we rely only on that, as if we don't have this universal heart connection that truly connects us to each other, I'm also quite afraid that relying only on AI can create quite a lot of challenges given the bias and given the level of consciousness that we currently operate in the world. So like, yes, I think it's important to leverage the power of technology, but it's also, I think, quite important to make sure that we are, as humanity, leveraging technology with the right intentions that is grounded with our presence, grounded with our hearts, and ensuring that what we are creating is benefiting all, which I'm not so sure is what might emerge from AI if we only rely on that. So that was another contemplation when you shared the difference between questions and answers. You also raised another point after that.
I think it was about choice.
Correct.
And what's essential.
Yeah, so there are actually so many concerns currently being discussed. Social media brought quite a lot of challenges in terms of identity, in terms of what it does to psyches, especially for young people. But for the second wave, for the artificial intelligence, I was currently listening to some of the ethical technologists who are investigating this topic, which is ever changing, by the way. They were even complaining that for the presentation, they had to update the presentation during the day multiple times. It is changing that fast. So it's not easy to stay on top of what's emerging, what's evolving. But right now, the technology actually can mimic your voice if it has 3 seconds of your voice input. Like, it is insane. Like, this identity is going to be such a big problem. So coming back to the choices too, because we will be creating this totally visual world in terms of fake images, in terms of fake speech capabilities. It's going to be, I think, even more important to be grounded in your essence and trusting your body's wisdom to really know what is fake and what is real, what
Mm.
is your truth too, because it is such a unique thing that each of us define in different ways. So to me, I think another way of navigating this blurry future, which is very clear, is going to be full with lots of fake things, is going to be us
Yeah.
grounding ourselves in our humanity, in our essence, that gives us that innate body response when we hear something fake. I don't know whether we will be able to get there quick enough or soon enough. Apparently, there are so much fraud activities already happening, given the what technology is capable of today. But having too many choices is also, I think, another invitation as us humans to really make sure that we are grounding ourselves in our humanity, so that we can make the right choices that belongs to our inner essence.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, wow. There's a lot in what you said there. Like, and I love that you brought up that the AI is a reflection of our consciousness as a whole.
Yes.
And this is really important because right now at least AI is limited in terms of its agency. So it's going to reflect your consciousness to you in give depending on how you interact with it.
Sure.
So if somebody comes to ChatGPT and they're very busy minded and they don't have much time, they might say like, give me 10 ideas or give me, 10 suggestions, and then I'm going to pick one, and they'll use it in that way, and the AI will just work within that their own worldview, like,
Yep.
oh, it's got to be fast and so forth. But if somebody comes to it and is much more intentional and wants to go deeper with the AI,
Yep.
then they can set up the questions and the prompt to elicit a certain perspective from the AI, so they can be intentional about what perspective the AI takes, and they can formulate their questions in a much deeper way and say, I'm thinking about these three strategies. This is the context. And share with me a few pros and cons from this perspective. And then the AI can give those. And then you can say, take another perspective and go deeper into this one.
Yeah.
And like, and so, right. So then the AI is actually reflecting the person's own consciousness because
Yes.
they're slowing down enough to ask deeper
True.
questions.
True. Wow, you opened just another very interesting vertical. First of all, thank you for another creative exploration, creative use case. That's actually a very mindful use case in terms of how we can get the most out of these interactions. So I've experimented in a similar fashion. Usually I was very much criticized in the business world too, because I give, like, my personality is the teaching style. I always give context behind the decision because I don't want
Mhm.
people just to do things because I tell them to do things. I
Mhm.
always try to share the context before giving the direction. Maybe it was because of my style. When I started interacting with ChatGPT, I share the same kind of intention, like, here is what
Yes.
I'm trying to do, and here's where I'm coming from, and then similar paths like you explored. And when I've gone through some prompting education, I realized that that's actually a technique which was naturally coming out
Yeah.
of me. But that's a technique that you can increase what you get from ChatGPT if you can really give it a little bit more context, similar to what we need in human interactions too. So I agree. I think it's important to hold the conversation in a more higher elevated level with more openness that can also guide the conversations.
Yes.
What this actually made me think about is really famous Steve Jobs quote. He says, well, technology is just another tool. How you use it depends on your level of consciousness. Yes, you can mindlessly spend hours
Mm.
in your iPhone doing destructive things and using it just another disruptive habit, but you can also use it as your creative vehicle for bringing more beauty into life. So
Mm.
similar to that, I think if we as individuals can bring a higher level of consciousness while we are co-creating with AI, I think
Mm.
that really impacts the outcome. And maybe for international people, like I'm from Turkey, a couple months ago, I had an interaction with the students, younger generations in my high school, and they were asking me how I found my path to live in United States and what are the things that they can do today. And I told them, well, in good old days, we didn't have too much opportunities. Like I had to really follow a more traditional path of higher education, from higher education to some classical corporate jobs so that I can have some sponsorship that can really help me to live and explore in different cultures. At that
Yeah.
time, we didn't have YouTube. We didn't have all these opportunities that we have today. And in today's world, like anyone in the world with any stable Wi-Fi connection, they have all the opportunities to be connected to the world. And to me, just this capability that you talked about, like give me a different perspective, is such an eye-opening thing that you can bring the
Mm.
world's wisdom to your hands. Like you can just sit in Turkey, never leave the country at all, but just gain the wisdom without going through decades of hurdles that I had to go through at the time because we didn't have this openness in the world. So I think what I'm trying to say here is really what you shared is an amazing use case that comes with the right intention. If you can bring the right intention into these tools, there are so many things that we can get from them. As an international, if you don't have means to travel, you can still enhance your thinking capacity and incorporate a worldview, build your consciousness as a human being
Yeah.
by incorporating different point of views and leveraging these kind of tools that can give you the world's wisdom.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Wow. Yeah, that is. It's yeah, so the tool, like you said with the Steve Jobs quote, it's an amplifier.
True.
So coming back to a person's consciousness, they have to be, well, depending how intentional they are about what they amplify,
True.
they will get those results. And so somebody who is, like you said, sitting somewhere in another country, and they may not have the access to go to some universities and whatever, but if they have access to technology like the AI, and they want to amplify their wisdom, like they actually choose to amplify that, or amplify their decision making, or amplify, any of those things, then they'll still, I would say, they still have to go through, at some point they still have to go through the challenges that you went through, but not in the same format. That's all. They
Sure.
might go through it sitting on their home at home in their
Sure.
bedroom with the AI, but
Sure.
be confronted with their own things, just just in a more accessible way, so that the whole learning curve is sped up, so to speak.
And the cost is a lot more economical.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I still would like to see all of the positive things that we can create with it. But I also would like to take this as an opportunity to invite myself, invite you, and everyone who's listening to this conversation to be an active participant in the use of technology, in the developments in this space to ensure that we are shaping this together with our
Mm.
humanity, with the right intentions, ensuring that it is benefiting all. And I think it's a responsibility for all of us. Now it's out there, all in the open. We might not have huge powers to make impact immediately, dramatically, but I think through our use cases, through our intentional explorations and us sharing this with like-minded, like-hearted people, we can have little small steps and we can influence each other. And
Mm.
definitely, I think the conversations are happening right now, whether in the business world or in the personal use cases or in what you do with AI in your own business. There are tremendous opportunities to integrate this into our lives for betterment of humanity. But I think it's important to have this type of engaging conversations so we
Yeah.
can shape this together.
Yeah. Yeah. And, maybe, yeah, I'd be interested to kind of, let's say we have about 10 minutes left, to maybe ask you what you might want to share with anybody who's listening to this in terms of AI, how they can use it, and also any of the themes that we talked about. I mean, there's one thing I want to share, which is if you haven't played with ChatGPT and AI, like, go play with it and be blown away. So definitely do that. If you're already playing with it, that's good. You're already blown away. And then where I would like to point somebody is, while they're fascinated with what the AI is creating, right? What whatever you're doing, whether it's images or ChatGPT, and you're playing with it and you're amazed at what it's creating, I would invite them to also then look inside and see, where, as they're playing with the AI, what is being created in them.
Yes.
So like retaining that awareness of themselves as they're playing. And if they find that something unhealthy is being created inside, that's great. Like, you want to know that, right? And if they find that, this is creating more awareness, or this is creating more inspiration or something like that, right? That's also good to know, right? So it's sort of like not just focusing on the shiny stuff out there, because it's so shiny that it can definitely do that, but to retain an awareness of what's happening inside them.
Yeah. Beautiful invitation, beautiful reminder. I can only echo and maybe just add a little bit more on top of what you said. I think it's really important to have that personal checkpoint, but to be able to have that personal answer, I think we need to make sure that we have data grounding practices. So I will repeat myself: as
Yeah.
much as you spend time with AI, please make sure that you have grounded self-love practices that really brings back whatever knowledge that you acquired from there into your presence, and you have time to integrate as well. Because yes, the world of knowledge is there, it's accessible. We are living in this never ending, ever changing world of knowledge, but knowledge doesn't necessarily mean embodiment. And embodiment is a heart's wisdom, it's a whole body wisdom. And whatever we acquire in terms of playing with AI or doing some interesting projects with our minds, I think it's really important to create space, create openness in our lives for that wisdom to be embodied, or let our bodies to really have time to answer so we can hear its voice when it's giving us some warning signals too. So it's
Yeah.
checks and balances. It's wonderful to play with the curiosities of the mind, but it's really important for the heart and the body to have a more grounded, embodied experience too. So I'm not against technology. I am all for opening our minds, but it's important to make sure that we are keeping our bodies healthy and our hearts open too. And to me, that comes with embodiment practices. What works really great personally for me is nature, because this AI world is really at an amazing speed. It's evolving and changing every other day. So the speed of progress is really tremendous. And what nature does personally for me is really, nature has this very slow cyclical rhythm.
Yeah.
And just being in nature like 30 minutes a day, like when I am in front of the screen and just like in the world of Mid Journeys, Chat GPTs, or many other applications, if I just lose my mind almost like 2-3 hours mindlessly, then I had to really get out, just walk in nature almost for an hour, just to make sure that I am balancing things out and I am really integrated some of the learnings that I acquired from there too. So to me, it's really an important balancing game, not
Yeah.
neglecting the benefits of either side, but making sure that we are slowing down for whatever we acquire to have an integrated experience in our own personal lives.
Yeah. That's a beautiful reminder. And slowing down is, Like I can't tell you how many coaching sessions that I've had either with my clients or
Mhm.
me being coached by my coach,
Yep.
where one of the key points is slow down.
Yes.
It's so powerful because paradoxically, like if you think about sports, like let's say football, and the ball is moving at high speed. As you get more and more professional, the
Mhm.
pace of the game goes faster and faster.
Yes.
Or in tennis or whatever, right? The ball goes faster and faster as you get more and more skilled. But that just means that inside, the athlete has to be slower and slower as they get more and more skilled. And when you get to the people who are absolute best, they are like completely present.
Yes.
And so it's the same with this, like as we have access to something that's so fast, we have to be slower. And then we can meet the thing very intentionally, and in that way it will actually uh, amplify us in a powerful way, in the way that we actually want to be amplified.
Beautifully said.
Yeah, wow, this is amazing, Dork. Anything as we kind of wrap up here?
No, I think I'm not so sure whether we shared too much about starting an unknown journey, but given our time limitations, maybe that can be another conversation topic where we can do a deep dive into how we are dealing with this uncertainty that the world is facing right now, and what are some tips and tricks that we can both share in terms of how we are navigating and how we are trying to bring our heart's wisdom into this unknown journey of life.
Yeah, there'll definitely be echoes of what we spoke about here, but we can definitely speak about it in that particular context.
Sure.
But yeah, this was great.
This was fun. Yes. Well, we are still learning. And if you have anything to share, given your personal experience, please feel free to reach out to us and join the conversation in the form of comments wherever we share it. So I would love to hear.
Yeah, I would love, like, if you're listening to this, I would love to know what resonates with you, what
Yes.
doesn't. Like, if you have any questions or anything, feel free to reach out, like Doruk said. And, that'll, if there's something that, if you suggest a topic that speaks to us,
Oh,
then
yes.
we might do, another conversation about that. So, yeah. All
Well,
right.
to be continued then.
Yeah. So I'll stop the recording here, Doruk, and then we'll just finish up. If I can find the button, there we are.